Hey guys, I'm Patrick.
And I'm Allie.
Welcome to Work Our Way, a podcast about our adventures through Australia in our van called Fatty, talking about our relationship, content creation, and a little bit of stand-up comedy. This week, we got a fucking burner for you.
Oh my god, yeah. I know we say this every week. Oh my god, so much has happened this week, but this has been the most jam-packed week emotionally, adventure-wise, like everything.
If we were a college freshman, this would be the preeminent experience of our life.
Seriously.
But we're not. But it was still a pretty impactful. We're gonna remember, I think, this week for a little while. And we're still in the middle of it. We're actually here in a place called Cobargo, a place you might recognize from the news as the location where that woman told Scott Morrison, the president or what do they got, prime minister here, to go fuck himself.
That was here?
That was here.
I did not
put this
know
place
that.
on the map. And the reason this place was a place Scott Morrison was going to come to visit is because it was very deeply affected by the rampant wildfires that you probably have heard about.
Yes, the bushfires in New South Wales, Australia, have been going on for the last few months. It garnered international attention in January, and we finally were able to get in touch with some organizations, and with our visas we're able to come out here now and help. And it's been, like I said, a wild ride emotionally. It was very, very dry last week, and now it's like a tsunami. It's just been raining nonstop, and it's like flooding a little bit. So it's just like one natural disaster to the other.
Yeah.
Like these guys just can't catch a break.
That expression, come hell or high water, well, these people have had both in the last month.
Yeah.
Which was a clever line I came up with today at camp, and so far nobody has given me enough credit for as clever as I think that is.
I mean, truly, when it rains, it pours.
Oh, more idioms. All right.
Oh, man. So I don't even know where to start. I guess we should start with just leaving Canberra, because that was where we really left off.
Yes.
Which feels like years ago.
Oh, my God. Another life.
Yeah.
I was a different man
in
Canberra.
That was. Yeah.
Yeah, so we left Canberra. The drive went whatever. It was fine. We could see the smoke. We could smell it as we were coming into town. Where did we stop?
In Braidwood.
Yep, we stopped in Braidwood. Oh, yeah, it was thick there.
Super thick smoke. It was, we drove right into it, and the sun was setting, but the sun was just pink. You could look right at it.
Oh, yeah, it was, orange is what I thought it was.
Oh, really?
Yeah, maybe we have different color eyeballs.
Oh, boy, is the dress blue or silver?
Uh-oh.
Or what, gold? What was that?
I don't know.
That viral thing?
High school freshman.
I don't know.
College freshman. All right. So,
but yeah, it felt like a 400-pound man was sitting on my chest because I could barely breathe. It was so thick.
It's pretty rude you're calling me 400 pounds right now.
We're on vacation. Hey,
okay.
Just let ourselves go a little bit.
I was not sitting on Allie's chest. What she was talking about is that the cloud was like, I woke up and my throat hurt. It was very smoky.
Yeah, our eyes were watering, not because we loved each other, but because we were in a cloud.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anything to speak of there? We had a drink in the local whatever club. You could see the people were still pretty affected.
Yeah, it was a lot of a paramedic and a couple of firefighters that were in the bar with us. Still kind of somber. There were some volunteer signs up for various organizations. So, yeah, that was Braidwood. Yeah.
Then we pushed on and we got to Cobargo, which was the location that we had both signed up to help out in. I signed up for I almost called it a company. It's a group called Blaze Aid. Which we're not going to say anybody's actual names, but we'll say the names of our entities because they're doing good work and they honestly do deserve to be highlighted. But before we came in to the camp here at Blaze Aid, we stopped in Cobargo. We grabbed a cup of coffee.
Yeah.
They have it's so bizarre. You go down the main street and there'll be like a butcher shop is open, but right next to it is a completely burned down building.
Leveled.
Nothing left except for the chimney. Nothing.
Oh.
Oh, shit. I dropped my microphone onto my beer, and now it's all over my hand.
And all over our bed.
Yep, and all over the computer, and it's a problem.
Well, yeah, I'll let you get settled there. But, yeah, it was crazy. We went and we walked down the street, and it was almost as if the fire just decided to handpick what it was going to destroy, because certain buildings were leveled, and they would be right next to buildings that were seemingly untouched. And so it was so unbelievable, the amount of devastation that followed this fire and where it decided to go. And really, you couldn't even see where the path was when you were looking at these buildings. You're like, how did that burn and that not burn? It was just absolutely incredible.
And what it burned so completely. Like, it didn't leave anything. It would be, everything was ash. You couldn't tell. Like, occasionally you could be like, oh, that was probably a radiator. But it burned indiscriminate. Mm-hmm. And left only, like, a chimney. Only the corrugated steel of the roof. There was just nothing left of the places that the fire touched.
Yeah.
And it was that stuck out at me. Stuck out? Yeah, that makes sense. That stuck out at me. And we continued downtown. Bought a cup of coffee, went into a bookstore, met a very nice woman who owns the bookstore. Yeah. I found a book that I've been looking for, and then another book on the history of Rome, which I thought was going to be pretty interesting. So we decided to get those books, and the woman there was just so gracious and thankful that people were coming into the town. She gave me one of the books. Now, these are all secondhand books. These aren't like $40 value, but it was such a great, such a nice act of her just being gracious that we were there to see their town and to help out. And she asked what we were doing there, and we said we're going to be volunteering at these two camps. Mm-hmm. And she was such a kind woman. She gave us her phone number and said, if you guys don't have hot showers, you give me a call. I would love to have you guys and host you. And we haven't needed to. But the hospitality was real. It was honest.
Yeah,
it was very nice.
We didn't know the level of devastation that she experienced. Like, she could have lost a majority of her home, but she was still offering to let us shower. You know what I mean? Like, we don't know what she lost, if it was livestock, money. It's no idea. But she was still so kind. And it almost moved. I mean, I was teary-eyed when I left that store.
Oh my God! I almost shattered into a million pieces when she handed me that book and said thank you. And I hadn't even done anything, and she was being that nice, And I was just like, okay, wow, these people have been through it, and they're just happy that people are coming through, spending money in their town, and here to help.
Yeah. You
don't realize how cut off these people feel
until you see it and you talk to them and you realize that they don't want you to leave, It's crazy.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, what else did we do in town?
So, man, I don't know that we really did anything. I mean, there was like a pub that we did laundry at before we got to the camps.
Yeah, so we had fresh clothes so we wouldn't be stanking.
Yeah.
Then we get to the camp, and Allie joined Team Blaze Aid. Mm-hmm. And because the other team here, do you want to say their name?
Yeah. So Team Rubicon Australia is also here, which is an organization that started in the U.S. by some Marines, and they said, hey, we should build an organization where we can utilize paramedics and first responders and military veterans to assist in disaster relief. So they have a lot of chapters. I don't exactly know where else in the world they are, but I'm here with the Australian team, and there's some Norwegians that are here as well that came all the way from Norway just to do 2 weeks here. So it's pretty cool. It's a good organization, but it's my first experience with them ever. So they're here too, and luckily they're in the exact same camp, which means that every night we can go back to our van and hang out together, and all's well.
Yeah. But the first couple of days, Allie's deployment in Team Rubicon hadn't started, so she joined me here at Blaze Aid, and Blaze Aid, their whole thing is, I mean, I don't know if it's their whole thing, but what they're extremely good at is being dynamic and small enough to not have to worry about red tape. And when they see a problem, they do everything they possibly can to fix it. And the way it's run, like, they accept donations, and they get that donation immediately to the people who need it. And they try and concentrate on the people who are falling through the cracks. So there are other programs like the Red Cross, like St. Vincent de Paul is very big here in Australia. Even the Army came through and was reestablishing like lines of communication and some of the infrastructure. But these people, like, not only do they lose their houses, you know, their fences are down, they're elderly, they can't repair, they're losing their livestock, they're losing everything. And because insurance is so expensive, many of them are underinsured or not insured at all.
Yeah.
So this fire came through, took everything, and they have no ability to recuperate their loss.
No, you see a lot of people just driving down the road where it's just a pile of rubber and then a makeshift camper van or pop-up trailer or even just a tent, because these people truly don't have a place to sleep at night anymore. Yeah. And a lot of these people here, they're elderly, they're generational families where they've built their home up from scratch years and years ago. So
and they're sleeping in their pickup trucks.
Yes.
Like, it's... The devastation is real, and it looks like a war zone. I've been to war. I've seen what that looks like. This looks like that.
Absolutely.
It looks like it is, yeah. So anyway.
Yeah, we're getting ahead of ourselves here.
Yeah,
but yeah,
we're all over the map. Guys, this is like we're in the middle of this. So we're feeling all of the emotions. We haven't really talked since our day ended, you know, and it just ended. So it's late here. Allie and I are just kind of reconnecting after a tough day work, helping out some family. So we're offloading to you as we're offloading to each other a little bit.
Yeah, honestly. So we'll try to slow down as much as we can, but we're talking fast because our minds are just racing right now. Because we've talked to so many people. We've experienced just so many stories, and it's honestly a little overwhelming, and it's something that personally I haven't experienced in a while. Being in the thick of disaster relief like this, especially in a different country, especially when you're here for really tourism, you know, it's all hitting us in different waves and at different points of our day. So we apologize in advance. This is just going to be a slightly more raw episode as a result of that.
Yeah, it might be a little bit more scattered as a result as well.
Yeah.
But
So Blaze Aid. Blaze Aid is where we started, and one thing that really stood out to me that I thought was kind of cool is that at least the team here, they're primarily gray nomads, which are people over the age of maybe like 55, 60 who are doing the nomad life in Australia. So they're living out of camper vans. They're doing the house sitting thing where they house sit for people for a couple months or even a year. And they're in the area, so they're down here helping. And whether it's because they have a connection to the local area or they just happen to be here traveling, it's kind of an older crowd here.
Yeah, that was something that honestly I didn't think was that cool.
Yeah.
When I came in, I was like, oh, what the fuck is this? What did we sign up for? Is this just going to be a bunch of old people kind of just fucking off? And like, it's not, though there are some old people that are just clearly fucking off.
Of course.
There are some old gray nomads here who I think are just getting a free meal and a good spot to camp. But I mean, the team that I'm on, these are fucking pipe hitters. These are dudes and a dudette, people who are like looking to non-stop help. This is what I'm here for. This is what I took off work to do, and I'm going to do it every moment that I possibly can. You know, and I'm happy I fell into a team like that. The moment we got here, you know, we got to camp and everybody was out on the job sites, and it was about midday. So we get in, we register, we park the van, And then we start walking around, and I just find the guy who's in charge of the camp, and I'm just like, what can I do? And the next thing I know, I'm digging a trench for a power line to the makeshift kitchen that they have. And then a couple of teams got back, and they're like, all right, we're going to dump concrete near the makeshift showers that we have so it doesn't get all nasty and muddy. And I was like, oh my God, okay, we're laying concrete now. And here's what I'll say about old people. For some reason, they all know how to lay concrete.
Oh, yeah. Pat showed up and thought, we were younger, we're a little bit more capable. No, we had to move aside for all the old men who flocked to the concrete truck because they already knew how to do it.
Yeah, I was the punk ass on the wheelbarrow. That's what I was. I was the fucking grunt. Hey, Korg. Lug wheelbarrow. And I was just like wheelbarrowing concrete back and forth. And, I got drafted onto the, I would call them the hardest working team, because nonstop they will find the hardest job and they will go from morning until as late as they possibly can. They will go today, in the awful monsoon that we got, a really bad storm. We were up and we were doing some shit. So I got lucky in that there are a couple of people really getting after it. The first job that we hit was this fella who lost everything.
Yeah, you got to tell the story because
I will. It's
Christ.
Wild. We drove by his drove by his property. We were looking for where it could be. There wasn't even enough left from what burned to identify that it used to be a house. There wasn't even that. He had a trailer, and that was it. He had a buddy that came from kind of far away to help him restring a bunch of his fence, which had all burned up. So we're the job was, all right, we're going to redo his fence. And it was about 3 kilometers of fence that we had to rip up. And then burn the burned fence posts, all that, and then rewire and do, just redo his fence. And when we got there, one of the guys on the crew had a car issue, so I'm waiting for that car issue to get fixed, and I'm talking with the owner of the property, and he was talking about his experience. And this guy, he's about 75 years old, maybe 80. He doesn't walk too great. And he's tending to his farm, and he hears about the fire coming, and it's black smoke, and he's trying to save his house. He's there with his nephew. They're spraying water, and the fire comes fast and relentless, and it's skipping over the grass, and it's laying down fireballs all around him, like literal fireballs. He's showing us the burn marks in the lawn, and he was like, "Yep, they were just tennis balls just on fire falling out of the sky." And so he said once it got too black with the smoke to see, they knew they had to get out of there. So he hops in his Gator, his side-by-side, a little kind of souped-up golf cart, a John Deere, and they head towards the river that's, 200 meters behind their house.
Mm-hmm.
And so they go down there. He hits a ditch with his Gator, and this thing flips end over end, somersaults. And he dives out. He and his nephew dive out and then haul ass down to the river with the fire literally on their heels. They get to a 2-foot water hole, and then they spend the next hour dunking themselves in this 2-foot water hole with freezing cold water, and only to emerge to catch their breath, get hot again, wonder if they're going to die for an hour.
Yeah.
And this guy's telling me this. He's recounting it like it's normal, but it sounds like a Hollywood story. And this dude is 75, 80 years old, but he looks like a 200-year-old barrel, with fucking arms and legs just stapled onto him.
Mm-hmm.
This guy is living a Hollywood movie, and he can barely walk right.
Yeah.
And now he has to dig fence post after fence post and restring all this, and that's where we came in, and we just gave him a hand, anything he had, and these people are very proud.
Yes.
Right? They're not used to needing help. they've been self-sufficient for so long.
Yeah, many of them are farmers. Many of them live so far away from the town, out in the open.
Yep, and because they're self-reliant, they don't typically need people. Mm-hmm. So convincing them to let us help was often a kind of an issue, and you ran into a bit of this.
Oh my goodness!
So you came out to the job site with some of the leadership of Blaze Aid.
Yeah, I mean, it was really the same day that you were doing your thing with that guy in the river. I ended up going out with the second in charge here at Blaze Aid, and we went to do damage assessments. So if you're on a team here with any of the organizations, you're either doing like any sort of fencing or chainsaw work, or you're just going out, you're doing welfare checks, you're checking in on the people who have lost everything, making sure they're still mentally okay, seeing if they want to talk about it. Or you're doing damage assessments. You're going to their property for the first time. You're looking at what needs to be done, what your organization is capable of providing, the timeline. And it's insane. I mean, this is a small town, but everybody needs help. So these two organizations are incredibly overwhelmed with requests. So unfortunately, you have to go to these properties and determine what the priority is, which is, just a very painful thing to do. And I'm honestly very glad that I personally don't have to make that decision. But we went out to a property. It was a couple, maybe in their late 30s, and they really lived in the middle of nowhere. They had a ton of acreage in the woods. So it wasn't a farm. They didn't have livestock. It was just they owned a property in this beautiful forest, and that was their life. That's what they built up. So we go there, very long road to get out to their property, and halfway up, we realize that we can't go any further because it's completely destroyed. It's kind of in a little bit of a ravine, and it's washed out. There's cars burnt everywhere. So it's destroyed. So we have to walk the rest of the way. And it's just this couple who they wanted to evacuate. They were given the order to evacuate by 8 a.m., I think the day that the fire came through. So they're like, okay, we have some time. Let's pack up the getaway car. Let's make sure we have food, water. We'll get out of here. And at 2 a.m., the fire hit them. And they didn't realize that the fire was coming because it was just smoke. So they're like, okay, this is just smoke. It's fine. We still have 6 hours to get out of here. And all of a sudden, the smoke kind of clears and it's just flames. And it's flames as high as all of the trees around them. The flames are leaping over the roof of their house. So they go in the house, they hunker down. The husband has this backpack. It's like a water backpack with like a little hose attached to it. So he's using that to keep the roof wet so that it doesn't come crashing down. And so while he's doing that, the wife is in the bathroom, in the tub, in the shower, like wetting herself. And then when he needs more water in his bag, she runs out, tries to put as much water as possible. But they fought the fire for 5 hours. I think it came around like 2 or 3, and she said they didn't stop until 8 or 9 in the morning. And so they started to get to the end, and the wife was like, I think this is it. I think we got to get ready. They ran out of water, so she was putting beer and whiskey in this bag, and she just didn't tell him because she didn't really want him to lose hope either, and she wanted him to keep fighting, but she was like mentally like preparing to die. And she broke down at one point, and the husband had to really keep it together to save him and her. And eventually they just weathered the storm, but their last hope was to get in their water tank, which was like in the backyard, and they figured they could run out there and just jump in. But they ran out there a little bit, and they saw that the ladder to get to the top was burned, and all of their hoses were melted, and it was just, I couldn't even imagine going through that.
Even the water tanks, though, like you see, one of the locations I worked at the other day, they had 2 water tanks, huge water tanks. I couldn't even tell you how many liters, but gigantic.
Yeah.
Burned, gone. Nothing left. Everything around it burned, gone, nothing left. Like the water tanks would have been the death of them.
Yeah, honestly, it was a blessing in disguise. But it was just so heartbreaking to hear her recount the story where she just gave up, and she was like, this is it. We've run out of everything. We've tried our best. Like, it was so sad. And you could tell that this guy was a provider. Like, he was very proud of his property, very proud of what he had made for himself. And so when we went out to visit, he was just hanging on by a thread. His eyes were just like shark eyes. They were dead. There was nothing there. He kept it together during the disaster and the fire for his wife, but as soon as it was all over and as soon as the smoke settled, he really now is in such a bad place. And we saw him digging trying to dig like a ditch, to put a pipe in where his driveway was destroyed, which is like an incredible job that not one person can do. That takes like a construction team, that takes several people to lug pipe and to shovel dirt.
Yeah, this
and
poor
he
guy.
was just doing something.
He didn't know how to do nothing, so he needed to do. Doesn't matter if it's an impossible task. That's all he's ever known how to do, is just take another step forward. And there's no step to take. There's everything's gone. Everything. And they're like, how can you bring that back?
Where do you even start?
And as an old man, how do you do it? How do you look at everything you've lost and say, I have to start from scratch, and I'm 85 and I have nothing? That's there. Like the level of how you measure civilization, is how you take care of your weak, your sick, and your elderly. Like, can you do those things? And I know this community's really struggling with that. They're not for lack of trying, but for the overabundance of people in need. And honestly, this might be my ignorance, but I've been keeping my eyes open and my ear to the ground a little bit. There's no sign of the Red Cross anymore. Mm-hmm. There's no sign of St. Vincent de Paul. Though the money is being raised, like it's very hard to figure out how to get it to the people. And I guess the people could be more proactive in filling out the forms, but with what computer?
Yeah.
They could be more proactive by calling the numbers, but with what phone? Mm-hmm. These people have nothing, and they don't know how to access the funds that are available. And the people who hold the purse strings, sure, they got to balance the books and make sure they're accounting for every dollar, but they need to get the dollars to the people. They need to be on the ground and finding the people falling through the cracks, because they're pouring right now through the cracks.
Yeah. I mean, this is kind of a side note, but one of the biggest frustrations when we showed up at this camp, because this is just like an old showground, it's an open field we're able to establish like tents and start building up camp, and people have a place to park their camper vans. And I was so surprised with the amount of people who do van life in Australia and the amount of people who travel here. I thought for sure that we would at least see another young couple.
Fucking boo, millennials, boo.
I was so disappointed. I was like, what? Where are these people?
Douchebags are all taking the same photo over in Bondi Beach or fucking
honestly,
Byron Bay, instead of coming out and just come and help. The effort will be appreciated, and it is absolutely needed.
It didn't, we were in Perth when we decided, okay, we need to get back there. We were on literally the other end of the country, and I just don't understand how it feels good to vacation in a place that is so devastated. And even if that area is a place that you haven't been to or a place that you don't plan on going, it's still a huge part of Australia. Australians, they are so prideful and they're so proud. I mean, why not just support for a week or even a couple of days? There's no restriction on how long you need to be out here. There's no minimum time that you have to put in, even a day. I was just really so sad to see that wasn't the case here.
That was a major bummer.
Yeah.
It would be great to see far more people, because the level of people in need right now, and they're in need of just effort. People to put up their fences, people to clear the debris from where their home used to be, so they can just start moving on and picking up the pieces. It's all it would take.
That's it.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, that's just a side. That's just something that's very frustrating. But one thing that was also really hard is, I mean, today I had to go to like a town hall, like a community meeting in a town kind of outside of Cobargo. I forget what it is. But, sure.
Okay.
Sorry. We're in our van on our stomachs right now. We're not filming this episode because my camera's over at one of the other tents. So I'm documenting a ton of stuff each day for Team Rubicon, which you can see on our Instagram. But we're just kind of on our stomachs here. We're trying to do this and kick back with the beer. But yeah, so I went to this community hall, this town hall, and it was a whole bunch of people who obviously were still struggling and had lost everything, and they were there to talk to police. They were there to talk to the two organizations that are here, Blaze Aid and Team Rubicon. And it was honestly a really hostile room. Like, it was, a lot of people were very frustrated. They've obviously been suffering for the better part of a month now, and some of them haven't seen any assistance. They haven't seen money come down. They haven't seen any governmental aid. And they're kind of taking it all out on the volunteer organizations and each other. I mean, tensions are just really high in this room. And it was heartbreaking because some of the old people that were in this small, sweaty, hot room with no AC, they left, and I was right near the door when they were leaving, and they were like, "We feel so ill. Like, we need to just get out of this room. Like, we just feel sick." And I was like...
From what?
Just from the emotions, just from, like, everybody suffering in one place, like, in one room in front of everybody, like, everyone voicing their story and their frustrations, and this older couple was like, "I just feel sick." And it was just so sad to see. And I ended up meeting a woman who it was very clear that she hadn't shown herself to the community in a while, but she lived like 2 miles down the road. And we talked to her for a while, and it started to become clear that she may have lost her husband in the fire. And just hadn't really talked to anyone about it, which is so heartbreaking.
Yeah.
And she was just a puddle. She couldn't stop crying. She was like, it's been a month and I have to go to work soon, and I just don't know how I'm going to do it.
How old was she?
She honestly, maybe 35, 36.
Wow.
Still young. And she just kept saying, like, I'm alone now. And I just, like, no kids, nothing like that, but I just cannot imagine. And it's just, what do you do? What do you say to someone going through that? And that's really been the thing that I've struggled with is, I mean, obviously there's things you can say, you can give them a hug, you can be there, but after a while it's like, oh my God, like, I really am speechless. I don't know what to say to make this person feel better. And it's just, it weighs you down. And I was there with my boss from Team Rubicon. The woman, she left kind of quickly, and we were both there in shock. And immediately the chaplain came up to us and was like, "Are you guys okay?" And I was like, oh my God, maybe not.
Where did the chaplain come from?
Out of nowhere, honestly.
No. Who's chaplain?
He didn't have any sort of... He was just wearing a red shirt. He wasn't affiliated with either Blaze Aid or Team Rubicon. I think he was literally just the local chaplain. He, like, gave us the card. He was just there in the town hall. He's like, "Yep, I'm a chaplain."
We saw a military chaplain when we first came through town.
Yeah, in uniform.
That?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, but he wasn't wearing any sort of uniform or anything. He was... I thought he was a resident that lost his home. So, yeah. I mean, he was blending in, but yeah, just crazy.
I mean, we're meeting tough people who are devastated. Some of the locals, there's a local I won't say his name, but I will describe him. He's maybe 60, 65 years old.
Mm-hmm.
He lost his home in the fire. He is, he's got a tent and a camper at the showground right up the road that he's now camping out in. And every morning he can, which has been most mornings, he comes over to Blaze Aid and he goes out onto the job sites with us.
Wow.
Yeah, and he is impossible to stop, and he has one leg.
Wow.
Yeah, this guy is tougher than woodpecker lips. All right, he is hard as fuck. This guy is the man.
My God.
Yeah, he lost his leg on an Arctic survival trip.
What?
From frostbite. Yeah, if when he was 20, and he is an absolute workhorse.
Wow.
And he is part of the community, and he's just out there helping people that he knows, like helping because I don't know if he's got nothing else to do. I'm sure he could be taking care of his own shit, worried about a lot of his own, what's going to happen next for him. But that's not what he's doing.
Wow.
Yeah.
One thing that I also saw in this town hall that reduced me as a human, I was like, I'm never going to forget this as long as I live. But it was a wall, and it was like a wall right by the door of this community center. And it was full of Post-it notes, all different colors. So I go to this wall of Post-it notes to see what they all say. And all it is like, Sarah wants you to know she's okay. Pete can't find his daughter. Diane is willing to help in any way she can. This person's okay. This person still hasn't been found. This person's okay. And it was like so unbelievably sad.
It's a literal message board.
Yeah, because people don't have phones. People don't have internet. It was so... I really just don't have words. Yeah.
It's intense. It's what's weird though, and just to move on from some of the heaviness, describe some of the scenes we're seeing. It's bizarre to see. The fire, I guess, was raging up until about 2 weeks ago. There's still parts of the valley out here that are like the trees are still smoldering. The ground is hot. It's hot to the touch. You okay, love?
Yeah.
Sorry. The ground is still hot to the touch, but the grass is growing. It's green. It's green and like kind of pretty.
Yeah.
The trees are black. The trees are charred. About to fall. But it is growing back. And I think you had a post a little earlier that you did for your team now that commented on it. I thought it was like kind of poignant. It said something to the effect of like the devastation is still here, but nature is moving on so fast.
Yeah.
And I think as fast as nature is moving on, I think the public is too, which is kind of unfortunate. Without the fires, like the literal flames, the media doesn't find it sexy enough to put it front page anymore.
No, but media, in any sort of disaster coverage, it drops off exponentially, always. So someone told me this a long time ago, and I can't remember if it was a chaplain or who, but I remember I was, one of my friends, she had lost her husband, and it was really sad. She was pregnant, like 9 months pregnant with their first child when she lost him, and her story made international news. It was a thing for a while, and a chaplain pulled me aside and was like, "Oh, you're good friends with this person?" I was like, "Yeah, I am," and I'm just kind of numb. I can't even imagine what she's going through, but I'm so willing to help. I just don't know how. And he said the best way to help is to bring all this energy to her in 2 months when everyone else forgets. Yeah. He said everyone right now is bringing her food. They're they're doing whatever they can because this is fresh and it's new and it's all raw. But he's like, that's when she's in shock. So she's still processing everything, and it's not that it's not worth doing immediately after it happens, but it's not going to really truly hit her until all those people go away and she's alone for the first night after this tragedy.
Mm-hmm.
And the chaplain was like, that's when you need to be there. And so I thought about that here because, you know, we're volunteering, and it is obviously after the fire. There's no active fire in this area, but yeah, it feels like people have forgotten, and it's like the work is really just starting. Like these people are now just getting out of their homes and talking to people and sharing their story, and it feels like everyone's gone. I mean, it's crazy. This town hall, it was just 2 volunteer organizations answering for everybody. These are volunteers. These aren't paid people who have continuity in the community, who have answers, who are actual companies that do this work. Like,
yeah, these are ordinary people who have taken it upon themselves and said, you know what, I'm going to organize this thing. We're going to go to this place and we're going to do as much good as we can. And they stood in front of this entire town and heard their gripes and like heard their, not just complaints, but heard their horror stories and said, okay, I know you guys are hurting. We will help you.
Yeah.
And these are ordinary people, which is, I think that's a testament. If I can do a couple more shout outs, there's a dude here. There are a few young guys, and the few young guys that are here, none of them are Australian.
Mm-hmm.
None of them. There is a guy from Germany who is really funny. He's an absolute sweetheart.
Yeah.
He's from Bavaria, and he took off from work when he saw that the wildfire was at its height maybe 3 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
He bought a plane ticket. He packed his bags. He is a firefighter in Bavaria. He packed his bags with his firefighting gear, like his pants, his jacket, his helmet, and he came straight over here and tried to fight the fires. Obviously, firefighting corps wouldn't. The what do you call it? The firefighting service didn't take him, so we just found a place where he can help. He's got chainsaw skills, so he has been cutting down trees, like clearing stuff off of people's properties, off of people's houses, falling trees that are in danger of crushing what little these people have left. Yeah, and he is just out there every single day, or took it upon himself to get his ass over here. There are 2 Czech fellas from the Czech Republic, obviously. One of them's a paramedic. The other one is a firefighter himself. And they did the exact same thing. They bought plane tickets to come over here and to help. And that's exactly what they've done. And it's like, those kinds of things are like, oh my God, there are people over here there are sheepdogs. There are literal sheepdogs out here in the real world they don't give a fuck. They see something wrong and they're going to do everything they can. They're going to dedicate their time and their effort and their money. They're raising funds back in Germany, back in Eastern Europe for these people, for them, and giving everything they possibly can for as long as they can. And like a lot of that does deserve to be recognized. I think that is really
angels. Cool. They're absolute angels. And there's a team here from Norway. It took them 63 hours of travel to get here. They're here for 2 weeks. And we were talking to them. One of the Australians was like, oh, you're going to go up to Sydney? Because Sydney's what, like 6 hours from here?
Yeah. You're going to have any fun up there by the beach?
And they were like, no. Without
we're not here for...
Exactly. They were like, no. That's not... They're like, not even for a day. They're like, no. Like, we need to be here as long as we can and do everything that we can to help these people. Like, that is our priority.
In the couple of weeks that Blaze Aid's been here, they have over 300 affected families, like 300 separate missions, like jobs to do for 300 separate families or individuals. And they assess that this camp will be open for at least 6 months.
Yeah.
While they work their way through every single one of them.
And that's what they said during the town hall. I really was so proud to be affiliated with an organization that would do this. But, I mean, there were so many people just sad, tensions high, emotions high. And the guy in charge of Blaze Aid was like, everybody, we will not leave until we have helped you. Like, we are not going anywhere. Like I said, these people feel forgotten. Like, they feel like, okay, well, now everything's about the coronavirus and we still don't have a home. But
right, yeah, it's about the Iowa caucus.
Yeah, they stood in front of everyone and they were like, we are not leaving until we help you. And it was just such a powerful moment. And I had like goosebumps just sitting in the back being like, oh my God, this is incredible. These people are not getting paid to be here and to do this and to say that in front of everybody. Like, it really is such a community here that has absolutely blown my mind.
Yeah.
It will remain the most inspiring thing I have ever witnessed.
Well, don't sell yourself short. You're still early in life.
I guess,
you
but
might see something else.
As of right now, what's going to top that?
Have you ever seen Rudy?
Oh, come on.
That's a pretty good movie.
You're the worst.
This morning we got hit with absolute torrential downpour.
Yeah, let's talk about the weather, because that's been wild.
Yeah, get a grip. The hell in the high water. Oh.
No,
gotta remember that from 40 minutes ago.
Think it's better the second time around?
Yes, it's somebody should have given me credit the first time. And I wouldn't have kept saying it.
Yeah, it was obviously drought. I mean, the fires, all of that, they were suffering with drought for a long time. And then after the fires, it was still super hot. You guys remember us talking about Canberra? We had to stay in a hotel because it was
sweat my tits
scorching. But now it's raining and it has not stopped.
The farmers are saying they have enough water in their dams right now to last them 2 years. And their dams were empty a week ago.
Yep.
That's how much water we got overnight. We're talking over a foot overnight.
Yeah.
Just out of the sky. And it is soupy. And it like kind of devastated camp a little bit. It ruined a couple of tents over here, a couple of all of their belongings. Some of the volunteers.
Soaked,
absolutely soaked. We got up this morning and most crews weren't going out. I got myself a pipe-hitting crew, and we got an old couple that has nothing, and they were gonna have to. They were staying in the front of they call them a ute, and it's a very small farming truck, and it's all they've got. And they had someone donated a very small a caravan, they call it, but it's a camper. It's a trailer, and when they donated it full of bullshit. So it was in storage, and they were also using the camper trailer for storage. So it was just full of shit, and they didn't really think about that. They just donated it, and then they gave it to this 90-year-old couple. The guy is dying of organ failure.
God.
Yep. They have nothing, and they can't be moving their shit, and it's not quite waterproof, so we knew the rains were coming. We got up, and it was in torrents, and we just went out there. We made sure, one, that they were still alive.
Yeah.
And then we got to work, and we were out there for 5-6 hours getting drenched nonstop, nailing down tarps, waterproofing their camper, and it was one guy smacked his head while we were out there, split his forehead open.
He classic
smacked it
boop.
on a big boop. Did a couple of concussions. I was fine.
Oh, nice.
And it was just nothing's stopping these people. You know what I mean? There's some people who are, like I said, who are just fucking here. And no matter what, they're going to do everything they can. And this morning was a pretty cool example of that.
Yeah, one of the guys had a borderline concussion, you were saying, from that boop. And he was still out at night, just laying gravel or whatever, smiling, bouncing around. I was like, he's having too much fun because
because he has he doesn't know where he is.
Yeah.
He thinks he's at a party and he's still 30 years old.
Someone go check on him.
No, but it's incredible. That part is inspiring, seeing the effort of other people, waking up in the morning and seeing that the weather is awful and that most people aren't even getting out of bed. Like, even in camp, most people were just like, nope, I'm sleeping in. I'm not going outside for as long as I can, even if breakfast is at this time. We were up at breakfast, and he said, you ready to head out? And I said, hell yeah, man.
Man, so badass. Like, that is so cool. And that's honestly the biggest thing that's motivated me since being here, is just seeing the resolve of people, the determination, the drive. Like,
they're still having fun on the job site, too.
They are.
That German dude who was cutting down trees, he's over there with a chainsaw. And, I had my first, so did he. I had my first experience with a tarantula.
Oh!
It's called a huntsman spider. Ugh. I don't know if they're they say they're harmless. That doesn't seem like it's the case.
No, they're not. Huntsmen?
Yeah.
I think they're super dangerous.
Well, they're tarantulas.
Oh.
And he's over there cutting trees into logs.
That's what you do with chainsaws,
Yep,
usually?
well, he's doing it with his chainsaw. So,
nice.
And then someone goes, yeah, there's a huntsman on you. And he goes, what? And they point at it, and he flicks it off, and he screams. And then the rest of the guys started picking it up and tossing it at him. The guy with the chainsaw, they're tossing tarantulas on.
Yeah.
And I was just like,
oh, welcome to Australia, mate.
He's like, oh, you guys, you Aussies are crazy. You're some crazy Australians.
Yeah, it was wild. What a wild place.
Yeah, I'm very afraid of spiders. I just shut my mouth, tried to wipe the face that I had of fear, and walk in the opposite direction, not too fast, like I was leaving a murder scene.
Yeah, it didn't help the German at all.
He was on his own. What could I have done?
He was on his own.
What could I have done?
Protected him from the Australians, not the spider. They were just tossing
crazy,
it back.
Very crazy Australians.
Yeah, so there's been some light moments in the thick of the heavy moments that we've had, which has been really nice and really refreshing, and really just a mental break from everything, which is good.
Yeah, I mean, people working hard. It's hard to stay dour and solemn, even during like funerals. When you're there, like, someone still cracks a joke, shit's still funny, even though it's like not a funny time. That's kind of how it is here. It's not all solemn. It's not all heavy. Mm-hmm. We come back from a heavy day, and there's been a lot of laughing. And it's weird how those two things coexist, oftentimes pretty close together.
Well, it's interesting because the couple that you were just talking about, the ones who were in the camper van, and the husband has organ failure, they came out to have dinner with us on camp. And it was no big thing. We all just sat around a table and we were eating and drinking and laughing, and the wife was actually coming on to you a little bit.
Oh, yeah. What's a little sexual harassment from a 90-year-old woman, Right. She doesn't know the difference.
What did she say? I can't even remember.
I don't remember either.
She was like, if she was talking to me, she's like, oh, if you don't want them, I'll have them. And I was like, you know what?
She doesn't want me.
But it was good. And it was good to really be able to sit down with some of these people, because they need that. They want that. They don't want to be reminded of everything they lost every hour of every day. And some of them, that's all they see. So you can understand why they're just so lost and even in shock.
Even with the other volunteers who are just getting after it, who are dealing with this stuff day in and day out, it's not that they're becoming callous to it. It's just that the venting and breaking the tension becomes necessary.
Yeah.
And so, like, not joking about what they're going through, but like singing on the job site and being like the positive attitude and the jokes and the throwing tarantulas at each other and like that type of shit is like, it's so necessary, or people will become bogged down by the negativity of it all.
Absolutely.
By the sheer weight and the sheer loss and the scale of it.
Yeah.
Once you start feeling that, and there's nobody there to say, "Buck up, cowboy," like you just buck the fuck up, dude. We're tossing all this shit. We're fucking clearing all this fence. We're doing all this. Like, get it done, and we're gonna have some beers, and we're gonna offload on each other.
Well, you see that in the military, on certain deployments, like, you have the people who are being weighed down by their job, by what they've seen, by the things that they have to do. And then there's always someone in the crowd that just breaks the tension. And whether it's one person or just a unit you're with, like it really is, it's so healthy and it's so necessary. And yeah, I don't know, like it's just wild.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure we've got a lot more to say about all this. And we'll say probably a little bit more on the next episode. We've got another week where we'll be doing this, but the next episode that we do will probably be in Sydney. So we'll finish our week on
Sunday.
Yeah, we'll be out of here on Sunday and then hitting the road. So you'll have us fresh, probably a full 24 hours after being away from this place. So we'll have different perspectives, maybe some similar ones.
Yeah, definitely. But thanks for sticking with it. Let's just plug a few things before we sign off. Instagram. So what I'm doing is I am the photographer officially for this portion of the Team Rubicon deployment. So I will be posting photos that I've taken on some of the sites, detailing some of the destruction and some of the stories that I run into along the way. So that will all go on our Work Our Way Instagram page. So that's just Work Our Way. If you're not following it, get to it, because that's where all of our fire relief content is going to go.
Yeah.
If you have any specific questions about what we're doing out here, if you want to know more about the stories or have any other
donate
questions, write in to workourwaypodcast@gmail.com. We seriously will answer whatever questions you guys have. Sorry we didn't get to it in this episode. We're just, it's like crazy. So much that we want to say. And then, what's the other thing? Oh, our website, workourway.com. If you want to see the most up-to-date episodes, if you want to see some of the content that we're putting out.
If you're in Australia and you want to know what my comedy schedule is.
Yes, absolutely. Check that out. We'll be putting all of the stuff that we've made for Taste Made and all the other van life related content that we have. We're going to put that on the website. So thank you so much, you guys. This has been incredible. Some of you guys have reached out and just said, hey, proud of what you're doing, excited to hear more. And that really has made us feel good. Being out here and being away from home is hard enough, especially in this environment. But the fact that you guys are still supporting really does mean so much to us.
And speaking of that support, guys, if you could, if you're enjoying this, if you continue listening, please leave us a 5-star review and write something positive. We'd love to hear about it, and that really helps us. And if you guys have already done that, get somebody else to listen.
Yeah.
Yep. We want to continue to see our listenership grow, and that's in large part because of you guys and the positive recommendations you make. Word of mouth is the best way to grow. So please let your friends know about us.
All right. Dope. We'll see you guys later. Thank you.
Yep. Bye.